also a holistic hair care specialist as well, so also trying to move that movement to all of our beautiful people here to make sure that we can take care of ourselves. Outside of that, I have been able to see so much working for this company and being able to be so engulfed in Africa, being able to live there for several months in Angola and also Congo. I've also had the opportunity to live in Dubai and Maldives, and so being able to see so many different cultures and understanding what we here as Black people can offer to those different connections and networking is outstanding. It's so important as well. So again, thank you guys for being here. And now I will introduce the man who made this all possible for me and so many others that I would work with. So, Fabrice Campbell.
I'll speak briefly, and then eventually I'll sit down, because I think I will speak a little longer than just that. But thank you guys for being here. Thank you, Luce and Renji, for organizing this. My name is Fabrice Campbell. I am a Congolese man, a man from the Congo. I came to the United States 20 years or so ago, and I have started in business, not trying to make money, but trying to feed my family. I, at the time, was dating a beautiful woman called Campbell, and we were expecting a child, and I had to figure out a way that could feed not just me, but her and the baby at the time, my son now. But so I had to figure out my place in this society, and I can tell you, as an African immigrant, is quite a struggle, right? Figuring out where you fit and how is it that you can actually make not only a living, but actually live the middle class kind of American dream. I don't know if he's still alive, but let's just say for the sake of the argument, the American dream, right? So the relevance of this conversation is highlighting why you have to understand the need for us to reconcile. It's pivotal that African Americans understand, and I'm about to demonstrate in the most powerful way possible. I showed up maybe, I want to say 30 minutes ago, right? Roughly. In that span of time, I have managed to potentially make $500,000 in this very room. Right? So right there, you see the power of Al-Kul Belan reconciling with itself. Al-Kul Belan is the name of Africa before they called it Africa. That's who we were. We were one. We've always been one, and the perception that we are different is our weakness. We are one not because I say so, or not because it's an ideal, although it sounds very idealistic, but we are one because our faith are bound. I give you an example. If for any reason the power of the world was to tilt, and let's say in some utopian world, China was to overtake the United States, guess where we all are? We will be exactly where our ancestors were right before slavery. You know where we were? Chilling, doing our thing, business and everything, but unaware of the rest of the world, and aware of the intent of everybody else, and aware of how many ways we are collectively affected by the movements and the changes that affects the world. It is pivotal that we understand that that is what binds us. We don't need to be friends. We don't need to love each other. We don't need to, well, we do need to love each other. However, my point is we don't need the interpersonal part of it. We don't need to interpersonally know each other in such a way that now allows for business to prosper or our collective fate to be something else than slavery, right? So if you're a student of history, which I very vigorously am, those type of events tend to repeat themselves. So from a purely historical place, it is pivotal that you understand that Africa is the richest continent in the world. I'm sure you have heard that at length. But what does that mean for you? What does that mean for you? You were African Americans, or you are African Americans, but once you were Africans, Chilean African, they came, they took you. We didn't party, we cried like any normal human would if you were taken. So the idea that we, on some level, did not share this pain is misguided. It's purely mythical. It's a lie that on some level we are not feeling the pain. Some of us are ignorant enough to dissociate because it was so painful and so traumatic that the first immediate response is to try to dissociate yourself from that. But the way I can give you an example of that is, let's say you have a house and you live in the house and someone comes and kills you, kills your wife, take your kids, take them away. They cross town. The day your kids pass in front of the house and someone that knows the story tells your kids, you live, this is the house your parents lived in. Should that child feel distant or disconnected from the house? Does the house belong less to them because of what happened? That's what African Americans are. Kids that were taken. Africa belongs to you just as much as it belongs to me. It's not something you need my approval for. It is not something I need to accept for you to say. Africa belongs to you. So I'm translating that into business instead of just the rhetoric of it, right? So, for instance, I knew intrinsically that because I believed this, it had to be true about me. And marrying Danielle, who's from California, was my way of living that to the fullest. I am married to a sister, and that sister has given me 4 beautiful sons, and we've been married for over 18 years now, right? So once it was true about my essence, once it was true every day in my life, every aspect of my life was this mixture of culture that we managed to find the middle, and the middle is love, right? So why am I telling you that? It's because it pertains to you. I am in business for those specific reasons. So I had to tell you why is it that I do it. I'm not doing it for money. This is not a get-rich scheme. I'm not here pushing how many cars I have or how many, that's not the point. This is about awakening in you the ownership of Africa. Why? Because our faith, again, are bind. If we cannot find the middle, I just mentioned the $500,000 in potential that I just made, and I'll tell you how. These 2 brothers are from Haiti, right? They have a company, and their company provides vaccines. They buy a vaccine in bulk, and they distribute them to countries, right? I'm deeply connected with a lot of governments in Africa. And by deeply, I mean, I provide key services to head states like their transportation, private jets is kind of like the business, my core business, right? Because of those relationships, I have access to their government. The brothers are trying to sell their vaccines back in Africa. I happen to know the Minister of Health from the Congo. As a matter of fact, somebody who was supposed to be here actually works for the government, right? So within 10 minutes, Africa connecting with itself not only makes money, but saves lives. Africa is actually suffering from the lack of vaccines as we speak. It's a serious challenge. I've been here 30 minutes and the solution is here. That's the power of Africa reconciling with itself. It's important that you stop seeing yourself as the other. It's important that we stop seeing you as the other. It's kind of hard to do. We're all black. But yet, this system has managed to make that a thing. It's almost impossible. Africa is the only place you don't need a a passport for it. I can just look at you. That's the only place in the world like that. You are my brother by the fact that you are sharing not only the melanin, but you are sharing my history and you're sharing my faith. If they decide to enslave us again, I want you to take a moment and actually think about it. Let's assume that in some real world they were to try it again. After we lose all the brothers who are courageous enough to fight, because we will. The gunpowder, the power, the parity in power is not the same. We will lose. So, what do you think is so different from you, between you and the ancestors who were enslaved? They were minding their business like you are, having their own little conflicts of their own kind made at the time, right? I'm not suggesting that this is what will prevent it, but I believe that a more cohesive network of business is a very good way to start. And I've proved it on a personal level. That's where I derive the authority to speak to you, is because I've done it for me first. I've done it for my company. Most of the people working for me are African Americans, and that's by design. Most of them, I've taken them home. I've taken them to Africa so that they see what it is, so we don't just talk about it. Bree, I insisted that she speak first so that you guys relate. So that you guys don't hear these stories from this faraway land that is promising you great things. No, she's seen it, she's touched it. We are in agriculture, we grow this plant called cassava. She's seen it, she was in the field. We're selling it all throughout the United States and Canada. We are doing that because it creates jobs back home. It creates a lot of jobs back home. And that is extremely important for an economy that can be the black economy across the world. We have tentacles that reach from the White House all the way to every government in Africa. Now, let me ask you a question. Why is it that African Americans have the political power you do? Your vote is important. It's extremely important, right? Some White House are decided by your vote. Why is it that the ambassador to the Congo is white? Every ambassador in the United States, outside of a very few celebrities, are white. You know what that says? We're still there. They still come to us and perpetuating a complex that we still hold in Africa, the white spread. Do you understand? That's how deep it reaches. So every business endeavor engaging, like vaccines, pertains to how can we yield this power? How can we create it? You see, if you think about ants, because I think in those terms very anthropologically. If you think about an ant colony, there is always an ant once the ant colony comes to capacity. There is always an ant that leaves the ant colony and goes find the new space, and then comes back and grab another ant and take it, and so on and so forth. You can see the same type of energy duplicated in the Elon Musk of the world, right? There is this weird urge to just shoot out to the sky. It's not very different than that, very sentiment. It comes, you can find it at the micro level, you can find it in our reality. I believe that I am that. And I am coming to get each one of you. And the point is, I was watching Eddie Griffin, he has this bit in comedy. I was sitting with my wife and we were watching this thing. And at the end of the bit, he says, not what you forgive my N-word use, right? But he says, not one nigga and a canoe came together. A sentiment of abandonment was, you could hear it in his voice. I felt so bad because he was talking to me. He was saying that I didn't do anything. He was saying that Africa didn't do anything. He was saying that we, on some level, didn't do anything. Now, what is that something? This is it. Speaking to you, opening my heart and telling you exactly why is it that I am in business. When you do business with me, that's what it's about. It's not about the Bentley, it's not about the jet, it's not about the money. It's about the power. That is why I am encouraging my wife and her business partners to open the first black woman-owned gold mine. And trust me, when I tell you something like that, it's as real as I am. I have not only the connections, but they have the wit to actually pull it off. That is what business should be. It's about power. Let's stop making this money for the sake of making money. How much money do you really need? You can buy a house for $600,000, fancy car for $200,000, send your kids to college for another $200,000. By the time you reach $1.2 million, you're done. You got every material belonging that you could possibly want. And then what is your purpose then? What do you wake up every morning for? What do you chase? I'll chase this bread. For what? For those of us who have reached that, for what? Why do you do that for? Right? I believe that waking up every day to make sure that each of you understand who we are and know we will not sit idle while the world is about to shift powers. Everybody sees the West collapsing. You need to be completely sleeping to not see the West collapsing. All its codes are collapsing all over the place, right? So what is our fate this time? Slavery again? Or some form of it? Where the Chinese decide, do you know how they treat us in Africa right now? The Chinese, they're not, there is no good sign coming. You see my point? Unless we self-determine in that way. Unless I come to Atlanta and sit in a pizza place that belongs to my brothers and try to get as many of you as possible to say this. Wake up, let's do business. Because we can't pick up guns and go and start fighting. Might as well do business, because that we can do. You yield a lot of power with your vote. Why is it that you don't decide who is the president in African countries? They do. Why is it that your vote is not tied to money? You got Nelson Mandela out. You created the African Union. I want you to understand what it means. Malcolm and Dr. King and all these great people that we know from the 60s, they are the ones who have created the African Union, an institution that stands till today. They're the ones who gave Africa its independence by the Kwame Nkrumahs of New York. Kwame Nkrumah's from New York. He's from Africa, he's from Ghana, yes, but he was in New York. My point is, every time the two collide, they make a point of creating some kind of wedge so that we can't do that. I believe that the environment is right. I believe that by being able to live it in my house, my kids have an African father and African American mom. What do you make them? African American? Which one is it? I don't think that we are any different than the people who created our first tribes. A lot of the people in this room are Congolese. And I'm not talking about the actual Congolese, I'm talking about a lot of you. 50% of the slave trade came from Congo. Congo extending to Angola. So I'm looking at my brothers and sisters. The fact that this society or this environment is calling you something else don't change the fact that you're my blood. Whether I know that or not, or whether I have proof of that or not, it don't mean nothing. My son has never been to Africa. He's not yet. He's going in September. But my point is, he's never been, right? But my son has the Congo flag on the wall, and he's all about Congo. What's the difference between him and you? Never been. Was born in them. What's the difference? Why does he get to claim Africa and you don't? Congo is the richest country potentially by way of what he has in his soil in the world. Why do you not want to own that? It belongs to you. I want you to wake up to that. It actually belongs to you, and I have figured out the mechanism for that to translate in today's political, economic environment. That is what KOMBO Enterprise stands for. That is what we're about, and that's what we've been pushing. That's why I take everybody that wants to go. I take them to Africa and I show them the ugly side and the good side. I'm saying this is home. I took her, she was crying. We went to the slave museum in Angola. We have videos of all of that. We're going to share the YouTube so that you guys get to see that. I believe it's extremely important that you see that you experience that you see that this is who you truly are. What does that mean on Wall Street? That's who you are. Your dollar is spent in every business that I've seen is entertainment, liquor, or something else. What about it? Belongs to you. It's on your phone. Why is it that you don't own it? There is actually nothing stopping you from that. But this environment where we think that you are the other. This environment where you think that you are the other. From that perspective, doing business with me, or people like me, and I hope there is more, is not an act of economic empowerment only. It's an act of reconciliation with yourself. I invite every last one of you to understand you are powerful, but your power is scattered. We should determine who the president of the Congo is, and I say it with no hesitation. We should determine who that person is, and that person should respond, or should at the very least depend on you. And the minute they become the president, the return to you is economic. They should sponsor your schools. The Congo should sponsor your schools, pay for your health care. The Congo should do that. It does it for them. The Congo is still poor. But the money goes somewhere, it's just not coming here. It's as simple as that. So we are not very different than our ancestors in the sense that something that belongs to us is being taken. No matter which way they spin it, no matter which way we spin it, whichever way we find ourselves detached from it, it's still the same concept. Something that belongs to you, some way, somehow, is being taken away from you. So, find out how you fit in this narrative, because this narrative is your narrative. I don't sell items. I don't sell things. I sell people. When I sell a plane, I don't tell people, listen, this is a great plane. It goes from here to here, and you can take this amount of people. No, I tell people that this is a token of your success. You should own it. This is how people know that you've reached this level. Okay, that's what I do for business. What do I do with you? I say the same thing, same philosophy, same concept. This is you. Africa is you. You should do business with yourself. You should do business for yourself. And the way to do that, we have figured out the way. So I'm not just saying that, I'm doing it. So thank you for having me. And for those of you who wants to have a more at-length conversation, we can. I believe that Africa has a lot to offer the African American community, and those ways to get to those results is what KOMBO Enterprise claim to have figured out. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.